From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team. Dominating with Dawson.
I gotta come up with something new every time. It's killing me. I'm running out.
Hey, Ben.
Oh, there's one.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, Ben.
Ben, it's been a while. How you been?
Yeah, it feels like it's been so long since we last spoke.
I know.
I've been great.
It's been several seconds since the last Dominating with Dawson.
Yeah.
Yeah, they come and go so quick. It's crazy.
So, Ben, I have a really important question. Okay, when I'm doing my driving, why should I double apex on turns? And when?
What's the shape of the turn? Why would you think you need to double apex something?
I have seen people push either a double apex or push it into a V.
Right.
For
so
victory.
I'm trying to figure out in the scenarios when to apply those.
I would say I would first be looking at the shape of the corner. If it's like a big parabolic corner, you're probably not going to find a double apex. You're probably going to find just the main apex and go. I would say, if it's something that's more squared off, like Oak Tree at VIR is a pretty good example of a double apex. You have to do that when it's a double apex. You don't really have much choice. So you can kind of come rim riding in there and hit the last apex is sort of one way. So it's like a super late apex, and cars that have a lot of horsepower can do that. Sometimes the way you approach a corner has to do with the power. And if you got enough power to pull you out of kind of a relatively bad entry, then it doesn't really matter how you get in there. But if you're in a momentum car, a lot of times you might go for a double apex just to keep your momentum up and not have to kind of have a bad entry that you can't recover from on the way out.
So if it's like a U-turn, like 180-degree turn,
right?
It depends on the car, and obviously the elevation and the camber of the turn. But would that be one of the things that you'd look at? Could you tell by looking at a track map, or are you going to need to go out there and maybe try each way?
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate proof is going to be in what's the fastest way around the corner. You're going to have to just try a couple of different approaches. This is going to be the ultimate proof in the pudding. You kind of talk about the theory all day, but I mean, I don't think you would look at like a place like turn one at Laguna Seca and think like, oh, it's definitely going to be a double apex. Is that what we were talking about in the side conversation, Laguna Seca too?
We're sitting here thinking of Alex Levinson here. We're trying to think of tracks that would possibly have this.
So it's actually kind of funny because at Thompson traditionally people take the NASCAR oval as a double apex, which is actually not the way to take that turn. And it's actually counterproductive over what we're discussing with how do you take a double apex turn or what you describe as one, because it's actually a really, really late dive in on the outside to go ahead and get your tires up on the oval while maintaining on the flat surface, and then pull in for a really, really late apex, taking what should be a double apex turn traditionally into just a late apex single turn.
Right. So are you saying the folks that kind of have better car control and have been at it for a while, they can kind of swoop in there and set one arc and carry the whole sequence? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly what we're talking about right there.
Yes.
Yeah,
a double apex also appears at Gingerman, I believe.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Gotcha.
5.6, I think it is.
Yeah.
And so, Vicky, how did you know it needed to be a double apex? Just because you saw other folks doing it, or it sort of seemed like the right way?
I was trained to see the double apex. They said there was two entries you could take it in there, either a double apex or try to make a V turn at it.
And so you went for the V immediately, right? Because you're like, V for Vicky. Let's try this.
That's right. I actually did a little cheer with it too.
Wait a second. Did we have pom-poms?
No pom-poms.
Bill, where's the cheerleader's uniform?
No pom-poms.
I'm wearing it right now, man.
Because I'm about to say, I want to put it on. Okay, we're good.
Only if you can put it on with me in it as well. Anyway,
Okay.
All right.
that's Dominating with Dawson's digressing, just like we knew it would.
Oh, it's going downhill all fast.
Have me.
So the one that I think of that you get to talk about a double apex versus a V is the keyhole at mid Ohio.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess.
You can take it as a V, or you can take it as a double.
What variables would you think would make it work one way or the other? Car? Is that one of the ones where it's like a power car can take this line, and a momentum car?
Yeah,
take this line?
I think a power car tends to take it more. They're going to take the speed in, get the braking done, do the quick turn, and then jet out for that big long straightaway. It really depends on the surface too. If it's a little bit wet or a little bit cooler, you kind of tend to wash out there, especially if you get on the gas a little early. So car just pushes out wide and you have to lift and you don't want to. So that would be kind of one of the turns I think about for a double apex.
So do we think of the double apex being sort of the hedge your bets approach if you're trying to be a little extra safe? Is that kind of what you would think of?
I do. And the other reason I was saying as a double is because if you're taking the chicane before, you kind of double it because you come in shallow on the exit of the chicane into keyhole and then the apex late. So you're kind of double apexing the turn in a way.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. So.
I mean, I would guess also if you think about it, sometimes whether or not you're going to approach something as a double apex depends on what follows, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What the exit is like, what follows right after might be a consideration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've never been to most sport, but I can think of a couple of sections there that I've seen on TV that looks like, this particular turn where it's standalone, you do it one way, but since it's followed by this or that, that's one of those tracks that has huge kind of flow, and it would be neat. It would be cool to see some of those sections in a standalone thing, but it just altogether, I think that's one of those places where it's very consequential what's ahead and what's behind the corner.
Yeah, my old thing was, some people were saying it's a double apex, and I was sitting there looking at track maps, going, I don't see why it would be one versus the other. I always think you have to kind of try it.
Does it matter? It probably depends on traffic too.
Cover factor of the driver.
Yeah, I mean, it depends a lot on the car and what's going on. I think so. Some people prefer certain styles.
Right. If there's an example that is always on my mind because I just am at by VIR so much, but turn one there is not necessarily a double apex. It's more like, do you square it off or you make it into a diamond? And the low power cars get the rotation done early, square it off, run straight across the curb, and then they use all the exit time to kind of run out on the outside and build up speed. But if you're coming down there in a Dodge Viper, those guys will turn it into they'll brake as late as they can, then they'll kind of make a V to give themselves a little bit of extra braking, and then they just got to turn the car hard. But they got so much power that it doesn't matter how janky the turn is. As they get down there, you kind of get the car whipped around, just stand on the gas as soon as they get the wheel straight enough. So that's a place where your line and your approach to the corner is absolutely just dictated by, do you have more than 300 horsepower?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember we were at one event and one of the instructors had I don't remember if it was an SRT or what version it was, but it was the Dodge pickup truck sport edition. And he was out there just blasting around there. And it was like, straight hammer brake, turn real hard, hammer gas. It was
point and shoot.
Pretty much. And I was sitting there. He's like, you need to keep up with me. And I'm like, I'm in a 86. I've got 200 horsepower. I'm pedaling as fast as it'll go. There's nothing more underneath. So
should be able to keep up with that with no problem. I do it in Miatas.
I would, except he's jamming on the brakes in front of me. So
they jam on the brakes, keep going. Don't worry. You can brake more.
They generally frown upon you passing your instructor when you're doing lead follow.
Yeah, that's a problem.
There is that problem with that. There definitely is that. But it doesn't mean
I'm so bad about that too.
There's nothing wrong with it.
All right, so you can double apex turns, you can late apex turns, you can V the turns. It all depends on the car and the track and what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think you made a point about the surface and what it's like. There are places at VIR where, geometrically you should be able to do this, this, and this, but actually it's really dirty over here. It just always is. There's no grip. I mean, there's some of this stuff is just individual track knowledge where it may be counter to what would be obvious from looking at the track map. So some of that stuff is always good to kind of run around and talk to some of the locals and see what they think about different sections of the track, especially if you're having a tough time. Like, hey, what are you doing here? So it's always good to crib off other folks if you can, if you're having a tough time. But if you look at the track map and you got something that pretty much looks like a squared off paperclip, end of a paperclip, it's probably going to be a double apex. Yeah.
And then the other thing, the track maps don't do a really good job, at least when they're just printed, is they don't tell you topography or camber, right? Because on camber or off camber could be a big deal.
Oh, yeah, but yeah, definitely. If it's off camber, so good.
I got to get to VIR. I keep hearing about this track.
I know. Sorry, I hate to keep talking about it all the time, and you just tantalize me.
It's your home track.
It's a bucket list for me. I've still yet to be there.
It's our 2022. 2022. Yeah. We're only a few days away. By the time this comes out, we might actually be there. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I can slow down that process pretty well for you.
I know. That's why we're saying thank you, Ben.